What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over 7 of the most interesting facts about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the game. Of course, this is a movie tie-in game or movie adaptation game. Now, what's funny, and what I want to start this video off with, starting with number 1, is actually the release of it, right? So, this is a game that has flat-out movie cutscenes in it, and it tells, it has, gaps where it doesn't show parts of Coruscant and other things, but it tells very well the entire story of the entire movie of Episode 3, and that might not be shocking considering that's the name of the game. But what about when the movie and the game came out? So the game actually released on April 2nd, 2005, whereas the movie released on May 19th, 2005. Now, to me, that's just incredible. And I put this on the list because you just can't really get away with something like this nowadays. I don't think you could get away with something like this ever since this happened, to have a game tell the entirety of the movie and to be as big. I guess it's kind of both of those things combined, right? The size of Star Wars, and this being the ending of that trilogy, the completion of Anakin to Darth Vader, and doing it in the game before the movie actually came out. Now, like nowadays, gaming, I think, is actually taken so seriously, and probably in a good way, but it's taken so seriously that you would never be able to do this, right? Have a game come out before the movie, and the game would actually spoil the movie. It would never happen, right? You would want to protect the plot and all of that stuff. So I just feel that's a relic of the time. It's something that I don't think could ever happen nowadays. We don't get games that are adaptations that are as good as this game nowadays anyway. But this wouldn't fly. This wouldn't fly in 2025 like it did in 2005. Now, moving to the second point, of course, again, movie tie-in game. How about the movie cut content? So that's a big part, I think, of what makes this game very special, along with like the alterations, which we'll get into, later on in this video. And the movie cut content, this can come into the form of, and because you can actually look in the menu and scroll and read through the concept art, which actually gives you kind of more behind the scenes, background stuff on it. When you're playing it, you might just think, oh, they're creating it, for the purposes of the game. But when you actually start to read and look at a lot of the concept art, whether it's certain clone troopers that were actually designed for the movie, cut out, or just never really implemented, and they just use them as enemy types, a lot of the mission cut content really comes, I would say, more towards the beginning, right? A lot of the Grievous ship and rescuing the Chancellor with the water reactors, or when everything gets flipped upside down, kind of that longer battle against Grievous and his bodyguards, that specifically was meant to be a scene, and it was very close to being a scene, and it didn't happen, and so it plays a part in this game. I think it's really cool because, again, we'll talk about where they just flat out add stuff, but this is just repurposing, right? Things that were ideas for the movie, and they say, well, it's not going to work, but, to either pad out the game or just help the game overall, it would fit in really, really well, and then they just implemented it. And so let's just expand upon that with number 3 is expanding the levels, expanding kind of the lore. This is something that I think, obviously, you kind of have to do, right? You have a movie that's like 2.5 hours. Yeah, you can't make, you could, I guess, make a game that's exactly the same length, but when you're cutting out so much of the talking, right? They skip a lot of like the middle portions of the movie. The game would be like an hour. So you obviously need to expand, and this is where I think the game really, really elevates itself, because one of the most expansive things that they do, in my opinion, is the boss fight. So kind of having them be like 3 to 4 stage acts, fighting Dooku, fighting Grievous, and having Grievous, lead you on like a whole freaking chase, fighting Mace Windu. I think that one might actually be my favorite just because it's kind of so extreme and so cool in so many ways, but that's a huge part of it. Anakin, of course, going to the Jedi Temple, like, the movie I think does a phenomenal job of that arc of Order 66 and all that, but the game, it puts you in it. You're going and you are crumbling that temple. Yeah, you're taking out like 3 to 4 Jedi types, right? Like asset types of people, but it still feels very, very cool to have Anakin, now with the hood and with the clones and going and just destroying everything. They add boss fights there as well, right? So they introduce some characters and have you, because it makes sense. You're going to the Jedi Temple. You're going going to face some like higher level Jedi, and so why not make that a boss fight as well, right? That is really them, I think, flexing the creativity and saying, okay, let's really expand upon that. Anakin going to Mustafar. I mean, really, you look at any of the levels, literally anything you do. Obi-Wan tracking Grievous is obviously a whole lot longer, and he kind of makes more of a mess of destroying a lot of droids before he gets to Grievous than he does in the movie. But, you have to make it longer, and I think they do it so well. Okay, number 4, I want to talk about dismemberment. So this was something that, again, I mean, nowadays, the resurgence of like Battlefront 2 and stuff, phenomenal. Okay, love to see it. And I'm not saying like one is necessarily better than the other, but because of ratings and just because of where we're at, I think right now with Star Wars, I don't know if you can get something like this. So what I'm talking about is just slicing through things, right? Slicing through droids is one thing, because I actually think this game holds up remarkably well in the visual and kind of sound and smaller detail department when you're stabbing the saber into a door and twisting it, just how kind of good it looks. Deflecting fire, from a droid and slicing them. I mean, it looks so good, but then specifically, let's say, the clones. I don't think you can actually get away in this game if you take out a clone without cutting off an arm or two. It's just kind of a built-in feature in this game. And it's just so cool. It makes it more realistic. I mean, these are lightsabers, and if you're slicing through a battle droid, or that has that kind of metal component, if you're taking out opponents and they're human, you're going to end up doing some damage. So kind of a smaller detail. I mean, well, small, but again, like, I don't really think you can actually kill a clone in this game without cutting off an arm. So it is right in front of your face, but just something, you don't get this in too many Star Wars games. I feel like this was kind of towards the end of that era anyway. All right, number 5, I want to talk about fighting styles, and this is something, obviously this game gives you a pretty good cast. Like, I guess nowadays you think of Battlefront 2, say, when they added all of the characters. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of them, and this isn't the most you've ever played in a Star Wars game, but what I can appreciate is the way they fight. So the actual button presses is something that repeats. They all kind of have a finisher. They all kind of have a grapple move. In terms of how you actually fight as them, you know what I mean? That is very similar no matter what. A lot of their blocking styles are actually very, very close to each other, if not the same. But what really stands out, because all of those things are very samey, is their actual like fighting technique. And again, it doesn't really make its way into the button presses, but just how they square up to you, right? Like, fighting as Count Dooku is incredibly different than fighting as Mace Windu, than fighting as Grievous. I mean, Anakin and Obi-Wan, you get so much exposure to, and I love honestly how they did it, because when you go back and forth, you can feel the aggressive Anakin style versus the defensive Obi-Wan style. You can legitimately feel it as you're going through the main game. And then when you're unlocking these other characters and you can play them in versus, then you realize, oh shoot, they're all like Mace Windu feels very heavy, exactly how he should. Grievous gets freaking up into your face and can swing hard and fast and heavy, right? Like, they feel as they should. Yoda you can only play in the bonus stage. We'll get to that in a second. Everyone in this game feels different, and I love that. While their moves, when you're actually pressing the buttons, those will be the same. But in terms of how they're moving and their speed and stuff like that, to me, is what really, really stands out. And it was an early kind of showing of that, right? Because, yeah, you play Battlefront 2, say, as a good example, and, yeah, they all actually have very different styles, and they feel pretty good. This is a little bit later, right, in terms of the timeline. This was earlier, so pretty darn impressive. All right, number 6 is the bonus levels. This is something, as a kid, right? I got this game. I don't know if I got it day one, but I got it pretty darn close to day one, and I just remember playing those bonus stages over and over, and versus mode, but just the bonus stages over and over. Look, I think the bonus stages are actually severely like wonky. It's something I remember back in the day playing as Grievous's bodyguards, which is one of the coolest things I think a Star Wars game has ever given us, okay? I think they're very underrated characters. I love their design. I love the staff that they have. It's so freaking cool. But let me say, all right, I remember as a kid, and I can remember now, that level is just broken. That level is so hard because their moves are cool. How they move is cool. Playing as them is cool, but they're so broken. They're so slow. It's bad. I think, a bad level. But here's the thing. I'm very thankful and grateful that you could even do it. Okay, to be honest with you, my hate for it actually gets destroyed by my love for it, because, you know, Grievous's bodyguard is one that stands out in my head because I played that so much as a kid, and I don't think I ever beat that level, and I don't think I could beat it now either. But Grievous, you know, you can play as him, obviously, in his own level, attacking clones, attacking droids for some reason, kind of odd, and then killing Obi-Wan, right? So, like, they all have their own cool thing. Playing as Yoda, it's the only chance to play as Yoda. He's severely overpowered, funny enough, right? Of course, the iconic final bonus stage, which is playing as Darth Vader, killing Ben Kenobi, and playing, you know, Episode 4, doing the same thing Episode 3 did in terms of the game, only showing the, you know, clips and all that jazz of 4. Incredible. Unbelievable that was even a thing, kind of just an extra, right? Just a throw-on thing, but so cool. So these bonus levels, I actually think in a lot of ways they are cooler than the stages in the main level. I just don't think they're as fine-tuned, because I think, like, Yoda is overpowered. The Vader Obi-Wan one is cool. It's literally just a duel, right? Grievous is kind of just weird. Like, why are you killing droids? Grievous's bodyguards, I mean, they're all over the place, but they're insanely cool that they're even in the game. And then at number 7, I want to talk about the different skins. So this is something that, you know, nowadays you'd buy them. Nowadays, loot boxes, you know, or microtransactions, right? There's a battle pass and they come. And, you know, this takes us back to, like, a really nice era of not just Star Wars gaming, but also truly, okay, gaming in general. And look, it's not the most deep of all time, but it's really, really cool. When you go into versus mode and you pit one person against another and they're the same, you'll see the change. Now, you know, for this exercise, even when I was replaying it, I played it a few times, but you can even just look at the designs as you're scrolling through the characters, right? Playing as Mace Windu versus Mace Windu, you'll see the costume change. The Grievous one, I think, is one of the coolest ones, and that's a personal bias, I guess, because I love Grievous, but all of them, right? All of them look so unbelievably cool. Just change. Some of them will change to red saber. Some of them will go from blue to green. Just super, again, like, it's something you might not even really experience, because if you're doing versus mode, your natural tendency might not be to play against the same person, but when you're even just scrolling and you pick the same person, you know, you'll see that change. Super cool. It was more common, you know, back in the day to do stuff like that, and again, no way you would ever get, that would be paid. You could not just get a natural free skin when you're facing one person against another now. That would just be like a bonus thing that would not be the expectation that would be put into the game at launch. Back then it was. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.